Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people, shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution. This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution.
All grit.
All right, people. What's happening? It is Thursday night. We are back to Rockhound Detroit Lions. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to handle something real quick. So anyway, tonight, want to talk about this offensive line situation. And partly because I wrote an article today and then I found it, I mean, just absolutely hilarious that Mike Florio, maybe an hour after I put up this article, they spoke about the same thing. So it makes me feel good, right? Because, I mean, at least I know I'm not crazy in thinking that we're going to be okay. Does that make sense? So I want to bring in Mike Florio in a little bit. And they talk about a lot of different things. Like there's like 10 different things that they went over for the Detroit Lions. What do they call it? A concern meter? I think is what they called it, a concern meter. And yeah, I mean, I think we have some things to be concerned about. I think we absolutely do. I mean, the fact that I was just going through all the injuries that have been going on, some things we didn't know about, including Amon-Ra St. Brown. I either I didn't know about it or I forgot all about it, and just being reminded that Amon-Ra hasn't practiced because he had knee surgery. And so either I missed that, I don't remember talking about it. I think I would remember talking about something like that. I just don't. So there's quite a bit to get in to over the article that I wrote, but also listening to Mike Florio. And I know, look, not a lot of us care for Mike Florio half the time, but they do some okay stuff. I mean, they're not always a-holes to the Lions. And in this case, I mean, I think the things that they were saying were pretty spot on. So we'll bring it in just a few moments. But how the hell is everybody, man? I'm glad to getting back to doing some night shows. I know it's still early in the season. You know, handling 9 different YouTube channels is just nuts. There's way too much going on for me to handle all these channels and to find time to do all of these different things. It's just a ton of work. And I can't wait to get more hands on deck, man. I can't wait. You got the 12 employees starting here soon. I'm not going to say who it is, what it is, but that should make a huge difference. I'm hoping it will. And then once we start loading in all of the interns, man, we should be flying. Goal is brick and mortar. So if you guys haven't heard, you're going to hear it now. The goal is brick and mortar in Detroit, and we're working on it. I'm working on it. I'm not sure how soon it'll happen, when it'll happen, but it's going to happen. And a part of the reason, if you guys don't know me, you're going to find out real soon who I am, like what I'm all about. And that's just I want to bring some truth and some transparency back to media. Unfortunately, there's some media members that just want to get on my bad side for whatever reason. I don't know why. I haven't done anything to them. They listen to the wrong people. They promote the wrong people. And the wrong people are constantly lying about other people. So I don't know. Maybe I should just start stepping all over people and just being a jerk and just lie and do clickbait. Maybe that'll get me a lot further, a lot quicker without having to do the work. You know, you do the work, it takes time. You don't do the work, well, you clickbait, you fizzle out in a few years. That's usually what happens. I'm still here. So we're still plugging along, even though I've only put 25% effort into this channel. We're still here. We're still plugging, and we're going to continue to grow. We got some really good people a part of this channel right now. Got this cord in front of me. It's bothering me. So anyway, enough of the pleasantries, man. Let's get into this. This article that I did today, which I haven't been writing enough, but I did one today. Kind of dissecting a little bit about the problems that we're facing and really what's going to happen with the Detroit Lions. So it's labeled, "Can the Detroit Lions maintain a dominant rushing attack without Frank Ragnow?" And let me pop this into the chat so you guys can read it later, or you can follow along now. And then the other question is, did Brad Holmes make the right decisions after losing Kevin Zeitler in free agency? So my first question to everyone is, listen, free agency is over, right? We're in OTAs is now over. The draft is over. Are you still wanting a defensive end? Because I hear everyone talking about Trey Hendrickson again. Again, to me, that's just sour grapes. People that get it wrong, they don't know what they're talking about, continue to pour fire, gas on the same burning out flame of a defensive end. And they continue to talk about that stuff when let's think about that for a moment before I really get into this article, because this article is kind of part of that. If we would have went out and grabbed, if the Lions would have went out and grabbed a very expensive defensive end, how up Schitt's Creek would we be right now? Paying all that money for another defensive end when we don't have a true all-pro center anymore. I don't think you guys understand, not you guys, but other people that'll listen, other people that, always want defensive ends. I don't think they understand the position that the Lions are in right now. Some days it's not going to be all roses and rainbows with me. And I'm going to tell you like it is. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Lions are in a little bit of trouble. They really are. I think that they'll get out of it. I think that they'll be just fine. But they're really in some trouble. Did you guys forget that we lost Kevin Zeitler too? An all-pro guard at the same time of losing an all-pro center? And I'm not even going to tell you the numbers until I finish the work, which I'm hoping to have done before tomorrow morning, on how often we ran behind Ragnow and Zeitler. It's astonishing. How many times they even sent Gibbs inside, right? We think of Gibbs as being this outside zone, running back that can just get loose on the outside and take it the distance, but he's an inside runner too. A lot of this run game depends upon what they do on the inside, because we got a lot of pulling guards going from side to side. And those guys need to be athletic. They need to be in the right place at the right time. It's all timing. And we just lost 2 All-Pros this season, both of which I think that we kind of expected to have, an issue with. Well, not Ragnow, but Zeitler. That one I think that we expected to have a little bit of an issue. And so my second question would be, did Brad make a mistake by not locking up Kevin Zeitler, knowing that there was a potential, retirement looming for Frank Ragnow? Has anyone thought about that? He got $9 million with the Titans. Now I get it. He wanted to go back, down to Tennessee or down that way. I think he's got family down there, his wife, kids, something. I think they're down that way. But doesn't it make sense now that maybe he should have spent a little bit more money on Kevin Zeitler for one more year? And again, not a defensive end, but Kevin Zeitler, take that money that you weren't going to pay Zadarius Smith and pour it into the guard. There's a couple of things that always reign true every year. If you can't score points, you're not going to win football games. It doesn't matter what the defense does, right? Because if the other team has a good enough offense that they can score just 21 points in a game, they're going to win a lot of football games. So, yeah, no, Brent, I'm not saying you can make someone stay, but it was a money thing. We know that. It was a money thing. And it's not that it was a money thing between, like Kevin and the team. It was a money thing with Brad being fiscally responsible and trying to plan and prepare for all of these big extensions that we've been talking about on this channel for several months, dating back to last season, that going forward into next year, how many guys we are going to have to lock up or say goodbye to. That's what he's preparing for. And when the purse strings get tugged closed and no money's going out and he's trying to stuff every penny, through the crack at the top of that purse, you're going to lose some guys. Let me clear something up before I get into this article too. I am extremely, I don't want to say vindicated, because I think I'm half at fault. But Dan Campbell today, he pushed back at the media, calling them irresponsible or something. I'll bring it in a little bit. And telling them to making up all these stories about Frank Ragnow and contracts. It's not right. Right? Because that's not what it was about. I think I might have been the only one that challenged the status quo. When I say is there trouble in paradise, is there issues going on with Frank and the team because he's, considering to retire. I knew it was because of health. But that's why I asked the question, has anyone spoken to Frank or his agent directly? And nobody has. Not one person that ran with that article, and it seems like they all print the same crap, just a different headline from a different company. Not one of them got a statement from Frank or his agent. Not one. But I at least had the audacity to ask the question, if anybody did. Now, I still, spoke about it, but I didn't say that there was a definitive issue with a contract situation. Matter of fact, the guy that, the executive that I spoke to about it, he didn't even really think it was a major money issue. Matter of fact, he said, I don't think Frank wants to be the highest paid guy in the league. He didn't think for 1 minute that's what it was about. But he said that if there was any money issues, this is probably what they would do. Guarantee the next couple of seasons, add a year so that they could kick it down the road a little bit and kind of stretch out, some of this with some signing bonus money so that the cap isn't as impacted. But nowhere did I hear that there was a money issue. Disrespectful, is that the word? There you go. Disrespectful. Yeah, it is. It is disrespectful. Look, Frank has put his left and his right cheek on the line every single time. The guy playing with the broken throat and I think he had an MCL, PCL in the right knee and the elbow. Just everything that he has gone through. And he's young at 29, 7 seasons, and he had to hang it up. One of the best centers of the game. And so anyway, we've got a couple of questions out to you guys. I'd love to know in the comments later in the chat right now. Number one, did Brad make a mistake and not lock up Kevin Zeitler to make sure that we had at least an all-pro guard? because we don't. We have an all-pro right tackle. And then there's Taylor Decker, who's not quite there yet and probably won't be. And then we have some rookies, and we have some second-year players, and we have some guys that have stuck around for a couple of seasons on the vet practice squad. That's it. We don't have a very deep offensive line per se anymore. It's going to be changed quite a bit this year. Graham Glasgow, been around for a long time, but he's not an elite football player anymore. Anyway, hope you all doing good tonight. How you doing, Trace, Mike P, Jay Cruzen, Marcus Newsom, Mr. Detroit City? I'm not even going to go there, Mr. Detroit City. That's too funny. If I think what you're saying is dirty. Kevin Barr, what's happening? Will Carter in the house. Will, got your email. I will respond to it today. I promise. Brent Layton, what's happening? L. Mueller. Man, I got problems with the M's and the U's, man. Mr. Bueller. Anybody? Bueller? Anyway, that's what happens when you get your throat ripped apart. Okay, let me get into my article. I know that sounds conceited, but there's just a lot of things I wrote in here that I wouldn't be able to remember. So my first key point of this whole thing is the elite running back duo that we have. And I don't think that there's any secret that the Lions boast one of the best running back combinations in the league. You know, David Montgomery was a perfect pickup. I mean, Brad Holmes obviously doing the right things back then. I think he does a lot of right more than he does wrong. I don't think that he makes big mistakes. And I think that's by purpose. The nature of the business is to not make big mistakes and to score as many, wins and little victories as you can. And I think that Brad has just won a lot in what he's been able to do over 5 seasons of drafting. The statistical performance, over the past couple of seasons, but specifically last year, I mean, this kind of blew my mind again today when I'm writing all this and looking for all this stuff. And this article has all the references linked and embedded so that you guys can look it up. It's just a hyperlink, so it'll take you right to it. But 2,187 yards last season during the regular season. Gibbs led with 1,412, Montgomery with 775, but he missed several games due to that right MCL sprain that he suffered. Obviously, he came back, into the playoffs, which he wasn't the same. Clearly wasn't the same. Gibbs had 16 TDs, tied for first in the league with Saquon Barkley. In Montgomery. No, it wasn't Saquon Barkley. I'm sorry. It was Derrick Henry. Montgomery had 12, which he was 9th in the league. Combined, they led the league for all running back duos in the 2024 regular season. That's just incredible what they did last season. But how did they do it? Right? They did it because they had versatile play calling, number one. The offensive strategy really incorporates a diverse array of running plays. The blocking schemes, clearly, the pulling guards, getting to that second and third level. The loss of Ben Johnson, is that going to make a difference, for this team? We don't know. We've got a lot of losses, a lot of L's on this roster this year, including coaches. And then you have the Scotty Montgomery transitioning to the wide receivers coach. So he's no longer the running backs coach. Is this all going to prove to be too much change? And then there's new faces, like Dan Campbell said the other day. A huge swath, of new faces in Allen Park. A lot of change inside that building. Specifically, we've got a new running backs coach by the name of Tashard Choice. Now, he does bring continuity to the room. He's coached Jahmyr Gibbs in the past at Georgia Tech. And then you still have Hank Fraley, right? Hank Fraley's been around with this offensive line, which is huge. Right? Having that continuity, I think we would be up Schitt's Creek even further if we didn't have Hank around. Now, beyond that, Hank added a run game coordinator to his duties here in 2025. So he's taking on more responsibility with trying to figure out how to keep this offensive line in shape. Again, the question is, will this change affect the future of, what was once the most explosive rush attack for the last 18 months, last, season and a half? The offensive line strength, what it was, what it is. The loss of Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler is huge. I don't think that there's one person that is listening right now or later that would not agree with that. That is huge. Ragnow posted the 8th best run blocking grade last season. Zeitler, the 12th best. So the two guys next to each other on the right side of this offensive line are top 12 in the league in run blocking. Combined, they're like top 10, both of them. 2 All-Pros working neck and neck. Now, I think I'm going to waive that need to emphasize just how massive of a loss this really is. Let's get into some scouting reports real quick on Tate Ratledge. So, Lions bring in Tate Ratledge in the 2nd round. And then Miles Frazier in the 5th round of the 25 NFL draft. Now, you could go back and listen to everything that they said, which I spoke about this the other night. You can now start to pick apart, which, by the way, I said that, 2 nights ago, I think, when I jumped on, when we were talking about Frank Ragnow, and I pointed out all of the old quotes, and then another company printed an article the next day saying the same thing. So I know I'm not crazy. But I know they're listening, so hope you're having a good evening. Anyway, Tate Ratledge, 2nd round pick, which, I had to put that receipts out a little bit today just to prove the point once again that we got this one right. I called this one live. He was number 1 or number 2 on my board. Made sense in the 2nd round. He's 6'6.5", 308 pounds at the combine, 32 and a quarter inch arms, 79 and a quarter inch wingspan, which when you add it all up, that wingspan is, he's like a 1.02 maybe. Like it's not great. The APE index score. 40-yard dash at least was a sub 5. Outside of that, 32-inch vertical, 9.5-inch broad. Now, some of the scouting reports out of Bleacher Report said that he played with a low pad level. He had very good leverage, very good play strength, stout, commanding anchor, grinds down the bull rush with small effective hops. He has clear eyes to sort basic line cames and stunts with the physical and imposing presence to deliver body blows when he's uncovered. I love that. He's taking shots. Now, he's not actually, taking shots. You know what I mean? He's not punching these dudes, but he's taking shots. Efficient combo blocker with solid quickness and timing to secure the first level and the line up the backer on his climb. So he can climb up into that 2nd level. Unlocks his hips, runs his feet and attempts to step on the toes of defenders on base and angle drive blocks to create displacement and reestablish the line of scrimmage. That's how nasty it is to play in the trenches. Just reading that he steps on the toes of the defenders. You would like to think that stuff doesn't happen, right? But it does. And I can only imagine how many busted up toes and nasty injuries that there are to people's, cuticles and all that stuff. Like it's ingrown nails just from getting stepped on, and how painful. You guys know how painful that is. Everyone's had an ingrown nail at some point in their life. It is painful to even put a shoe on, let alone go out, let alone go out and play a football game. So 38 career starts at right guard for Tate. He was a 2nd team All-American. He was a 3rd team All-American. He finished 3rd in the shot put for Georgia in 2019. He also competed in basketball and track and field in high school. So, the guy can move, right? He's got like a couple of minor injuries, ankle injury of week 3, and then he had a tightrope surgery, which will keep him out 4 to 6 weeks of the 24 season. That was it. So outside of that, I mean, the guy's been pretty healthy and pretty good football player. So I'll go back to that second or first question. I forget which one it was now. Knowing what we know now, are you more appreciative of the fact that Tate Ratledge is in the building? I certainly am, because I see the versatility. And we've heard, bits and pieces of versatility so far, but it's OTAs. We really can't. We really can't put our thumbs on what these guys are going to do just yet. We got to see what they do in camp. And the accurate reports that come out of camp are what's really going to matter. So pay attention to Tim 20-Min on that one. Mr. Detroit City, I hear you on that one. He says, I have some family members that are ingrown nails. Marcus Newsom says, does Goff still have the most division titles and playoff wins for all NFC quarterbacks? That's a good question. I have no idea. I know he did at one point. I mean, he was like third or fourth in line for the best playoff record and at least one Super Bowl appearance, including the Rams, right? His time with the Rams. So I haven't checked. Mr. Hassanin is in the house. Mr. Mahdi Hassanin, good evening to you, sir. Oh, don't worry about being late, man. That's what Rewind is for. Let's see. Will Carter says, who were higher on the run side? Not sure what that means, if anything. I'm not sure what your question is, buddy. Todd Boudry says, early season, probably closing of the season, very little. I must be missing something there. Is Brandon Scherf still out there? I think he is, Mr. Detroit C. I think he is. But I don't think he's the answer, though. I don't think he's the answer. I'll take a look at the very end. We'll come back to that. Okay, so this article went on to say, talking about Dan Campbell addressing the major changes, ahead of 2025. I'm not going to recap his quote. I'll post the, my article again in the chat a couple of times. So if you guys want to open it up, read it. I appreciate you guys subscribing to that. It doesn't cost you anything. Just, become a free member. That's where I'll put all the blog posts for now. As I get time, I'll write more. But moving on, the lines have been here before, right? One of my next headlines is, this time is different. Although the unit lost right guard Jonah Jackson the season before in free agency, and then we signed Kevin Zeitler, which was a beautiful move. Now, Zeitler ranked 15th in PFF grade among all guards in 23. Obviously, Jonah Jackson wasn't even close to that. He's had nothing but problems since he's left Detroit. He was having problems in Detroit. Now, when healthy, this Lions offensive line was arguably the best unit in the NFL last season in 2024. For whatever reason, though, we struggled against pass blocking. And I only say that because compared to the elite run blocking that we have or had, the pass blocking was like way off compared numbers-wise. And this is just based on PFF. So Penei Sewell, he was the league's highest graded run blocker last season at 90.5. Think about that for a moment. Penei Sewell, Kevin Zeitler, and Frank Ragnow, 3 of the 4 or 5 highest graded run blockers in the league last season. You can imagine how easy it was for Jahmyr Gibbs to crash down the right side of the line and get open. When you think about that now, like, it was so dominant, it wasn't even funny. Yeah, they had a couple of games where, Penei was getting pushed around, and that's why he's been spending a lot of time adding strength this season. Like, he's never left. He's adding strength. Brandon Hurt, see you in there, buddy. How you doing? Bulls turn, says Mahogany and Ratledge should be solid in time. I agree. I agree. I absolutely agree. So, Penei Sewell, league's highest run graded blocker, or league's highest graded run blocker. I said that backwards. 16th best pass blocker. You see the difference there? He goes from number 1 to number 16. Now, not saying 16's bad, but that just means that he's 16 out of 32 right tackles, right? That's not terrible, but I'm sure he can be better. His grade was a 74.1 versus the 90.5. Now, he was tied for first as the overall tackle, total grade 87.5 last year. Now, don't get me wrong here. I use PFF to have a conversation. We use film to identify the rest. We just can't show film without the NFL getting their panties in a twist. Even though I have a license now to show film, they still hit it. And I tell them I have the license, and they still don't care. So I just got to call them and see what I need to do. Frank Ragnow. He was a second overall grade. Second best overall grade, 85.3. He also boasted the second best run blocking grade, 90.8. And that was out of the centers, right? Not all linemen. That was just centers. Now remember, Penei Sewell was a 90.5. Frank was better. I mean, slightly, right? 0.3, but he was better. And he was also the 13th best pass blocking grade, but that was a 63.6 for all centers. For some reason, the centers last year in the NFL they all seemed to struggle in pass blocking last season. And then there was Kevin Zeitler, who's no longer on the team. He was the third best right guard or guard overall, 86.5. He also had the third best run blocking grade of 87.2 and also the 16th best pass blocking grade of 70.7. My comment on the pass blocking is this. Jared Goff still went off for like 7,000 yards and 47 TDs or something crazy like that, or 37 TDs or 42. I don't remember. It was a lot. So obviously they did their job. But why? How did they do their job? Well, when you can run the ball down somebody's throat, as I'll say in here in just a moment, pretty easy to switch gears into the pass game. Everybody knows that. The better you can run the ball, the easier you can pass the ball. And the more you mix it up, man, the easier it gets. And at least Ben Johnson did a good job at mixing it up. Now, the balance is going to be shifted, right? That's my next headline in this article, that the Lions running back tandem, obviously it's critical to the offensive identity, or poetry as I like to call it. Both players possess distinct skill sets that complement each other, and I think that is the parity that I love most about Sonic and Knuckles, or Gibbs and Monty, is they complement each other. It's a combination that allows for a dynamic approach to running plays. It also, where one back may excel in the power game, the other one will thrive in the speed and agility game. Running the ball effectively and transitioning to the pass effortlessly. That's the key, right? You're running the ball effectively and you're able to transition to the pass effortlessly. That's what run blockers do for you on the offensive line. And then having two really good running backs behind them. It's fun to watch. It's poetry in motion. And then you've got this balance that they need to find this year of explosiveness that is similar to what the offense had last season, and then this dynamic fluidity. How is that going to be interrupted in 2025? New OC. We know that he doesn't want to change a whole lot. He wants explosive plays. But is he going to be just as stubborn as Ben was, grinding the ball and grinding the ball and grinding the ball, and then finally the dam breaks and Gibbs and Monty are just able to bust through? Because if he's not patient enough, it won't develop. And if it's not patient enough behind these new guys, one, they're not going to learn, they're not going to get better. And if they give up, meaning if Morton gives up, well, the offensive line, their confidence is going to go to shit. So it worries me a little bit about this fluidity and how it could be interrupted this year. Derek Lewis says the pass game is going to be more affected by the loss of Frank and Kevin than the run game will. Ah, man. I try not to be down about this stuff, but after I got done writing this, I mean, it took me about an hour to write this because I was trying to find all the stats and plug everything in and link everything to make sure that everyone had all the information. And I just kept sitting back thinking to myself, like, man, I don't think people really realize how different this is going to be. And it may not look different, on some days. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jameson Williams is going to need to have a big season. Really big season. His speed is going to be needed out of the backfield. Now, there's something else that I was going to save, but I'll say it here. Maybe someone won't catch it, but did you hear what Dan Campbell said about the running backs today in the press conference? Where I can't remember exactly what he said, but essentially he said, here's your three routes. We've been waiting for Jahmyr Gibbs to get into the pass game. It was promised to us the first year. It didn't happen. Last year kind of wasn't needed. They used it when they needed it. But then when Dan said today, I'm just going to have to bring it in. We're going to have to play it. Because what he said, if you didn't listen and if you didn't catch it, what I took away from that is Gibbs is going to be inside this pass game more than he has been. Oh, I think Fraley's going to create a good offensive line too for us, Randy. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, versatile play calling, man. It requires mixology. And Riley knows this word well. I think he was kind of miffed when I first said the term mixology, that's how I referred to Ben Johnson. He was a mixologist. A good bartender. They're a mixologist, right? They're like a really good chemist back there. Mixing up all sort of concoctions and, mocktails now, but you need a mixologist. You need somebody that is so diverse in their play calling with fluidity, right? They have to be ingrained into the game and the flow of the game and feel it. Because if they're not feeling it, they're not going to dial up the right plays. And I think that Ben had a good grasp on that, at least in the last season. I think he had a really good grasp on it. So, new offensive coordinator John Morton, he emphasized installing the multifaceted playbook. Keep defenses guessing. That's the number one priority. Keep them guessing. The Lions utilize zone blocking schemes, misdirection plays. They use a mix of inside-outside runs. Such versatility not only maximizes the strengths of the running backs, but it exploits the weaknesses of the defenses. And for the Lions to really continue dominating in this run and pass game, Morton is going to have to become a mixologist just like Ben Johnson was. We'll go back to a quote here by John Morton. He says, quote, I think that you have to have explosive plays. You have to be able to do that. I think that there's a certain amount of explosive plays you need in a game. And explosive, I always think 7 or 8 plays explosively per game is really good. So what does that tell me? That they're still going to lean on explosive pass plays. 7 or 8 explosive games or explosive plays a game is kind of a lot when you think about it. That's getting 160 yards off of 8 plays. If you consider a 20-yard play an explosive play. Some statistics call it 10 yards. Some call it 20. I go with 20. I think that is an explosive play. That's 160 yards, again, repeating myself, off of 8 plays. That's pretty good. So if he can turn this around and he can do that, I think we'll be in good shape. It's 8 first downs. Moving on. Musical chairs once again. Next headline for me. So a key factor for the Lions' recent success is the offensive line, right? The ability to create significant running lanes, enhance protections, inflict dominance over their opponent. It's been lauded for several seasons that the Lions' offensive line has been one of the best in the NFL. The offensive line's cohesion, and this is key to me, the cohesion and the physicality, to me, are instrumental in establishing the rush attack early. You got to set the tone, right? If you're going to gain some offensive production in a game, you have to set the tone early. And that requires physicality and cohesion. So after the loss of Zeitler, right, to the Titans and Ragnow to retirement, I think that the cohesion has definitely diminished. You just lost 2/3 of the right side of your line and 1/3 of the left side of your line. That's huge. I don't know if people think of it that way, but Ragnow's the center. He is 1/3 of the right and 1/3 of the left. So essentially we lost, I mean, you really can't say 2/6. We lost 1/3 of our offensive line when you look at it that way. But since Zeitler's gone, it's 2/3 of the right and 1/3 of the left. Now, Hank Fraley, in my opinion, is going to be tested once again. This time, I think, to the max. He's developing, trust with these players, and I think that when you develop trust with Fraley and showing the ability to perform, the details, right? It's a requirement for the unit to have success. Now, having faced multiple seasons playing musical chairs along the line due to injuries, right? We've had a ton of injuries along the offensive line. I think we had 10 different offensive line formations in 2023. I think there was 8 or 9 in 2024. In 2022. That's a lot. When you have a new offensive line formation in almost every game, that's a ton to deal with. Now, the other thing that I think Fraley's going to have to deal with too is he's going to have to be more involved, but he's also taking on more responsibility. You had an all-pro and Zeitler, even though he was only there for a year, you didn't have to worry about this dude. Like, he was doing up downs or whatever he was doing in the labor and delivery room when his wife was having a baby, and he was going through the playbook to making sure that he could get ready. You don't have to worry about a dude like that. And Frank, you definitely don't have to worry about him. But now the two guys that you're going to install there, whoever they happen to be, Glasgow you're probably less worried about, but you're still going to have to stay on them. So Frank or Haley Fraley's going to have a ton to deal with this year. But I think that he's also proven time and time again why he's one of the best offensive minds in the game. Now I'm going to go into the last part of this. Did Brad Holmes get it right? This is where, and I'm uncomfortable today in this chair. I got to get a new chair. This is where there's a lot of speculation. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. And I welcome everyone's opinion, man. I appreciate the heck out of everybody and what they think. That's what makes us fans, right? That's what makes us have these really great conversations at every tailgate. The Lions drafted Tate Ratledge at pick 57. Second round, right? 2005 NFL draft. And then they doubled back in the 5th round and picked up Miles Frazier at pick 171. You guys know by now, if you've watched any of the videos or the small clip releases, Ratledge was number 1 on my board in the 2nd round. I called the pick live. I was excited about it. I was a little worried, that we traded a 4th round pick to move up 3 picks. I'm less worried now that I know we had Ratledge, but doing it live, it's like you're going through these emotions of, did we really have to do that? Brad did. Like, he had to make sure he was going to get his guy. And giving up a 4th round pick to go and get Tate Ratledge was the right move. Now, none of us knew that Frank Ragnow was even teetering with retiring. If I would have, said that Frank was going to retire, you guys would have thought I was full of crap. the season before in 2023, that's when I thought he was going to retire. And had we won a Super Bowl last year, I said that Frank was going to retire. Well, we didn't win a Super Bowl, but that was Frank's last season. I saw it last year. But when I heard Frank say it this year, that his body was in the best shape and he's feels the best that he's ever felt after a season, I was like, man, he's going to stick around. Fooled us all. And he didn't fool us like intentionally. I think he was trying to fool his brain that he knew what he was about to go up against. Getting ready for the spring, just a couple of short months after the season ended, was going to be too much for him. And I get it, and I respect him. But not one word was leaked about this. Not one word. And during the live stream on the 3rd, I spoke to how all the previous quotes by Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and Hank Fraley all suggested that the Lions organization knew that there was a likelihood that Ragnow was going to retire. And then it was further emphasized by his retirement statement. Question is this: why didn't Detroit Lions draft the center? If they even thought for a moment that he was going to retire, why? Because this has been asked to me, right? I've seen it fly around a little bit on social media. Why didn't he draft a center? Well, I'll tell you what, if he would have drafted a defensive end in the 2nd round, we really would have been screwed. Or the 3rd round, we would have been screwed. Then again, Jared Wilson was sitting there in the 3rd round. At pick 90, I think is where he went. I think I wrote it down here. All right, so I asked the question, why didn't the Lions draft a center? Here's the answer. Jared Wilson was the only viable center to compete for snaps with Glasgow immediately. He was drafted in the 3rd round at pick number 95, 25 picks after the Lions traded up to get Isaac Tesla. The other centers in this draft, Drew Kendall was drafted at 168. Jonah Monheim at pick 221. Seth McLaughlin from OSU wasn't even drafted. Jake Majors from Texas, he was also undrafted. That's a little odd to me, but this was not a draft loaded with top-tier centers. That was last year, in my opinion. There was plenty of centers they could have got last year. The answer was Gray Zabel. He was probably the best option to convert to a center. But as we know, he was gone at pick 18. And I doubt that Brad was going to move that far up. Oh, looks like I got a typo in here. So my answer is yes, Brad Holmes got it right. 1,000% he got it right. And he got the offseason right. The Lions even have a shot and a chance right now because of the moves that he made, the way that he has, been saving his pennies. We're still not out on, bringing, someone in at some point. You still have 53-man cuts. The trade deadline, you might see a center, be available, but that doesn't mean it would help us this year. Although you'd have to put him on the roster. But I think that Brad got it right because the depth chart had 2 centers behind Ragnow. You had Glasgow as the immediate backup. Brad had to be feeling good about the depth of this roster. You had Mahogany and Manu from last year. You had Frazier and Ratledge this season. Mahogany, Frazier, and Ratledge all could play center and learn the position if needed. But we have big, strong, amazingly gifted offensive linemen that we've taken at opportune times where we haven't taken defensive ends by design. Brad was preparing for this since last season. So all the time that you guys are digging on him to bring in a defensive end, he was preparing for this. He knows that this offensive line is not going to be here forever. Penei Sewell is going to be the last one out of the group that we have now that is going to be here probably next year. Taylor Decker's probably on his last season or two. We're going to have to bring in a left tackle. And to be able to bring in a left tackle and another defensive end, it's almost impossible. You only get one first-round pick every year if you're lucky. I know that cooler heads will prevail, but I also know that the drum that gets beat every single day for a defensive end, it just doesn't seem to go away. Even though this is the reason why Brad is the GM and we're not. It's that simple. Even though I've agreed with him, even though I've seen it, right? I've predicted some of it. I've been in lockstep with him. Doesn't mean that I could do that job and wouldn't succumb to pressure as good as he has done. That was the article. I appreciate you guys indulging me on that. But when I do writing, man, I try to go a little bit deeper. I'm not going to put out, every waking moment of every move. There is 50 guys in Detroit that can write the same crap. It's literally, go read it all. It's copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. It gets old. Like, I want to read some writing by Albert Breer and some of the other guys that really try to make you think, right? So anyway, what's next, right? What's the next big move? OTAs are done. Today was the final day. I wonder how many guys are going to stick around. I've seen some other clickbait, I guess, popping up about Alex Anzalone and the Lions preparing to having to move on or something like that. Someone just sent that to me a couple hours ago. I just saw the headline. I didn't even watch it. I couldn't. I knew. Again, it's disrespectful, but you know what? Alex knows what he's doing. He knows what he's worth. And I said it on the morning show. Like, I'm not going to sit here and get involved in Alex not wearing Lions gear. He's never worn Lions gear really in his off-season workouts. Right? Maybe at the facility, but not in his personal time at his personal gyms or, with people that he's preparing the season with. Like, who cares, man? Who cares? Like, that's up to his wife to decide what he wears, right? Let her decide. Who gives a crap? It's not going to tell me that he's trying to leave the team. It's not telling me that Brad doesn't want to pay the guy and that we're going to lose him because of a contract dispute. If he wants some money, he deserves it. He absolutely does. Just let it play out. Let me bend your ear on this one. And I'm sure a lot of you are going to disagree, and that's okay. That's okay. So, what day was it? It was Monday, right? It's Monday that all of this BS starts getting printed about Frank Ragnow. That he has a contract dispute, right? Monday. Am I correct on that? Monday? He retired on Tuesday? Am I on pace here? Sometimes my days blend together. Okay, so yeah, it was Monday. It was announced. His decision was announced on Monday, June 2nd, to walk away from the NFL. So it was Sunday or Saturday that a lot of this stuff started to get printed about Frank. I bet you he started to see all this BS and all these fans turn coat on him that quickly. That he's like, you know what, man? I put my body through hell for this team, for these fans, for this city. And you're going to just turn and bash me that quickly? Why would I even want to come back and do it again? This fan base has pissed off so many players, because they don't know how to control their mouth, because they don't even know what they're talking about to begin with. They just run their mouth. They don't take the time to do research. That's the big problem in today's society. It's like everything that is on social media is true, and everything that you see on Twitter and TikTok is, it's infecting your brain. Used to be come home, read a newspaper, open up a book, and now it's, you're in the 3-second world. You're literally flipping your phone every 3 seconds to watch something new. And I just feel like it's just rotting people's brains out. The true fans that understand what's going on with these players don't feel the way that the majority, the lower majority feels or has said about Frank. And I think the unfortunate thing is some of the media that writes for the Detroit Lions are still SOL, or they're not even fans of the team. And so they just write this crap for clicks because they get paid for clicks. Right? That's why I don't do clickbait. And it's kind of like what I said in the beginning. It's like, I could do some amazing thumbnails and put together some really, really, really cool clickbait titles. Matter of fact, I have a program that'll just give them all to me. But why would I do that? If that's what you guys really want, you're not looking to be a fan of the team at all. You're not even looking to get good information. You're looking to jump online to get into somebody's channel and just hang out and hang out with a chat. I just don't get it. I really don't. So I appreciate every subscriber. I really do, but I'm not going to do clickbait just to get 50,000 more. I won't do it. Hold on one sec. Be right back in 30 seconds. Dog's not doing well, so I got to bring him out real quick. Okay, we'll move on from that. So at the end of the day, I think that this is going to be a tougher go than I think what some people are putting out there. Like this is, it's a strong and resilient team. We know that they've been through hell, and what they've been through the last 3 seasons, I think is a testament to just how strong they really are, and the things that they can go through together, unwavered, and come out on the other end. Let me get on to some other different news and some other things that I'm going to sign off. It's a little bit after 8. A couple of things I'm thinking about, just so you guys know what's coming up soon. Number 1, thinking about starting at 7 a.m. Doesn't mean that you're going to miss the show, but probably going to lay this out so we have multiple people covering different hours, so I can do other things and continue to grow and do the things that I need to do. Like I said, running 9 different channels, it's hard. It's a lot of work. All monetized, all doing well, but there's channels that I just don't tell people I have because there's some things that are discussed that I don't even want to be a part of, right? Whether it's religion or politics, like I stay as far away from it as possible. But getting people up and running that's the fun part. So I plan on to be more in depth this year though, in season time. It's kind of hard to talk Lions like 365, especially in the off season. It's pretty hard. And I think that's why you get a lot more clickbait this time of year. And look, I don't care if I get 1,000 views or 500 views or 10,000 views. I know my content's not for everybody, but I know in the season, that's when we do a great job. Like that's when we get tons of views and I've only put 25% into this channel. So we'll have to pump it back up to 100% this year. All right, Trey Hendrickson. Oh, and next week, yeah, there might be a couple of days that I have to be off. I've got to meet some people in Detroit. And I know some of the other people are going to be off as well. So I might as well take the opportunity and get stuff done. Trey Hendrickson, I'm going to talk about him probably again tomorrow morning, but tomorrow's show, tomorrow's lineup, Trey Hendrickson, a former Lion escorted out of church. What in the world? Like, this one was hilarious. We already went over the run game. Can it sustain? Well, we probably won't do that one tomorrow. But Dan Campbell pushing back and Mike Florio. Let me bring in Mike Florio real quick. Let's listen to what he had to say. I think you guys will like this. Again, we'll probably review it again tomorrow morning, but that's okay. Here we go. Forgot that I reorganized all this. Now I got to find it. Oh, definitely reorganized it. Whoops. All right, let me fix it. Sorry. One sec. All right, here we go.
Okay, let's focus on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Then. That's the first topic for the Lions' concern meter. 1 to 10. What is
Concern
your level
meter.
of concern with the thing that really has been the quiet engine of the Detroit Lions, an incredible offensive line that just puts people on their butts and puts them on their heels, athletic guys like Penei Sewell, who's still there, obviously, but Ragnow's gone. Kevin Zeitler, who I think was an underrated component to that line, he's gone now via free agency. What's your level of concern, 1 to 10, for the offensive line entering this season?
I'm going to say a 7. I'm not going to go too low and too crazy here. I still look at it and go, hey, the 2 tackles they got, and Decker and Penei Sewell, like you just mentioned, that's a special duo there. They got a young left guard, Mahogany, who they drafted out of Boston College last year, who looks the part, played the end of the season and played really well. So I don't think they're going to miss anything a whole lot there. I expect Tate Rutledge to be good, but maybe not as good as Frank Ragnow. And Graham Glasgow is one of those guys that's getting up there in years that I also think they made draft picks to replace him, but still solid football player. So I'm not going to look at it and go into games going, man, the Lions offensive line, ooh, I'm worried about it today. I don't think you're going to have that issue. It's just how dominant can they be? Can they be as dominant as they were? I think to your point, I'm going to go 7, Mike.
That's a high number, though, for what you just said.
Well, because
what
they were
you
like
said would suggest a lower number.
Why? What? Like I was saying, like, hey, I love the tackles. The second-year left guard's a damn good player. Graham Glasgow's still a good player.
You're giving them a 7. Your level of concern, not how good they are.
Oh, maybe that's where you're right. My
like
level
you're
of concern. So let's go to 4 then, or a 3.5. Okay, you're right. That's what I did confuse that in my brain. Sorry, you're exactly right. Thank you.
And mine.
Yes.
And in my brain.
And everybody listening. So my level of concern is a 3.5. That's what I'm going to say. 3.5.
I'll go 5 because I look at these names here. There isn't a lot of depth. That's my concern.
I hear
if
you
they
there.
would have the
Right.
rash of injuries on the offensive line, that would be an even bigger test than they had last year when they had the rash of injuries on the defensive side. And Frank Ragnow's retiring because of the rash of injuries he had throughout the course of his career. The offensive linemen are the guys who just kind of quietly do the hard work, and they're dealing with something, and they just gladly embrace it, and they go out there and they pride themselves on being productive, being effective. It just may be that losing 2 starters and relying on younger guys to step in, that could be a problem. So I'll go 5. That's
Yeah,
still lower than it would be for anyone else because I feel like Dan Campbell will go to those guys one man at a time before every game and get them lathered up and frothing at the mouth and ready to go out there and do what they need to do.
I'm with you. I do. And they put their guys in advantageous positions a lot. I have faith in them and their evaluation and their coaching. They know what they want. And that's what I like. And added on top of that, and probably something we don't talk about enough, they have really one of the best offensive line coaches in football, too, in Hank Fraley. Kind of goes on.
I'm going to pause this for a second. Isn't it crazy that I wrote an article an hour before this came out, an hour before Florio did this thing? Now, they obviously recorded it before, not sure when, but we're kind of in lockstep talking about, Fraley being one of the best. Now, I have some concern, right, about this Lions offensive line, and I do believe that there's going to be some definite missteps. For once, hearing Sims say 3.5, out of 10, and Florio's kind of midline at 5, I mean, that's pretty impressive. If they believe that we're going to be that good, I'm not sure I trust it because they've been wrong about everything, it seems like. So we'll just have to see what happens. We'll continue on with this. So here we go.
Under the radar, doesn't get the name recognition he should. He's getting thrown out there as far as being a future offensive coordinator because run game and play action's becoming so popular in the NFL. So there's another guy. I have faith in Campbell and Fraley's ability to evaluate that position and find the right guys, even with these young guys, and coach them up, like you said, and get them ready. So I guess that's why I'm not totally very concerned there.
All right, let's skip ahead then to coordinators. We've talked about the transition, especially offensively, with Ben Johnson gone, John Morton taking over. He's going to try to put his own imprint on that offense, but still, they were as good as they could be with one of the best coordinators in the game. What's your level of concern now that they've got both offensive and defensive coordinators changing out this year for the Lions?
It's a little. I'm going to go higher than what I just did for the offensive line. I am, because, again, this is, I guess I'd say I'm going to go like 6 here as far as level of concern. They're replacing some guys that I think are the real deal. That's what the tough thing is. And within that, and some of the things we're talking about, right, with the Lions, the staples of what we talk about. Oh, the pass rush, there's that. And now, the offensive line, will that be okay? That goes solely on the coordinators a lot of the times to hide those or maximize those or figure out ways to make guys do certain schemes to the best of their ability. Oh, wait, we don't have any pass rushers, but Detroit had no problem getting after the quarterback last year. Why? Because Aaron Glenn was good enough to go, wait, we don't have pass rushers, so what? I'll find some creative ways to still get after the quarterback, and that'll make sense. And that's what we don't know about this group. When there are some injuries or there is a guy missing a game or two or whatever, can these coordinators give these guys the advantages that the past coordinators did to still make it look good and all that? So, I'm not terribly concerned here, but it's a little bit like, hey, I want to see it. I want to see what they're all about. I want to see how they adjust to things. And I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that the two that they lost, I think, are damn good.
Yeah. It still is going to be a challenge because you've got two head coaches now that came off that staff. A lot of it's going to be Dan Campbell and the organization. Did you pick the right guys? And once the guys are showing up on the job, are they going to do the job the right way? Are you going to make the adjustments as needed? I'm going to go higher than you. I am going to go 7.5 on this one because the guys they're replacing are just too damn good. And every time you bump a guy into a job he's never held before, there's a chance there's going to be some growing pains. And we looked at the schedule. There isn't a whole lot of time to get your sea legs, and it is good that they have the Hall of Fame game. It is good that they have 4 preseason games to kind of settle things in a little bit, have multiple dry runs before you go to Green Bay and Lambeau Field right out of the gates.
Right. I think there are some positives there to be had.
Okay. No Motor City mullet on the return, right? No, I wasn't going to do that to you guys tonight. So I just wanted to recap what they're saying right here because I think it's very important what they said in the last statement. The Lions have an extra game this year in the preseason with the Hall of Fame game. We need it. Like this is where I think that we're going to start to see these guys tested. I hope that everyone stays healthy, and I also hope that Dan puts these guys out there to play. It doesn't mean that you're going to need Jared Goff out there every single play. It would help for him to create some chemistry, whether it's with Tate Ratledge or whoever is, under center there or taking up center. But this Hall of Fame game is going to give us a real opportunity to see just how much more progress is needed, right? It's going to be an ugly game probably. These guys are football players. They've been playing this game their whole life. They're still going to play well, but I think that we're going to see a lot of mistakes. And that is my biggest worry, is the fumbling of the snap and those things that we haven't had, right? Frank doesn't do that stuff. So those kinds of things I'm worried about, the fumbling of the snap, the getting the protections called wrong. The one thing that I heard that I really love is, even if they put a young guy in like Tate and he can, hike the ball, he knows the counts and he's got decent chemistry with Jared Goff. Well, you still have guys like Panay or maybe Graham to your right that can help you even further, that could be making a lot of the calls. As long as he's in on the offensive line, he can help you a ton. I don't like that plan. I would rather know that Tate's got it down. And if there's one thing that I've learned about Tate Ratledge through all of the time that I spent over the last week and a half, just kind of studying him a little bit, is he studies others, right? A ton. He's just like a bookworm, man. He's in the videos learning about everybody and his opponents and their weaknesses and their deficiencies. So I trust that he's going to stay, in the game, so to speak, and make sure that he knows what he has to do each and every game. So anyway, just a quick conversation tonight about what's that? Kevin Barry says, "Will you don't believe they're going to let Goff handle his own line protections?" I don't think so. See, Ragnow did a lot of that. I don't honestly, I don't know, but Ragnow pretty much took care of everything. So I think most centers do. It's not to say that Goff doesn't call out, the linebackers and the slides and all that stuff, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes this year. We do know that there's been some conversation about Goff being more involved in the offense, more involved in, I guess, designing the plays, if you will. Now they did a lot of that with Ben Johnson, but the second part that I wanted to talk about here was, okay, so the loss of Ben and Aaron Glenn. Now this happens to teams all the time. Losing 2 in 1 year is tough, right? The Eagles, they had a very down year their first year, and then they came back the next year and won it. So, and lost a coordinator after that year. So it's not easy, right? It's not easy. I think Dan's the right guy, right? I think that he has a really good pulse on this team, and I think that the players respect the hell out of him. So if any, and the coaches, man, they seem like they all have a really good relationship. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but it just doesn't strike me that this is a team that is led the wrong way. I think that Dan is a man of his word. I really do. We never know, but that's the image that I get. So, all right, that's it for tonight. Be back in the morning, and we'll see what we come with for tomorrow morning. So you guys have a good night. Go and Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll catch you in the next one. Keep on rocking. Keep on rocking. Right here, right? Keep on rocking. Appreciate you guys. Take care.